Scott Hebert, welcome to Suit Up the Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Can I just first and foremost say, again, for the people watching, and if you only listen to the show, you're missing out on seeing our beautiful faces. Scott has a new hat, and it looks awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I need a new hat because I wear headphones when I'm like streaming, and my big ones, I can't put headphones on, so I had to make some compromises, but it's working.
It's working. It works. I am wearing my mummy coat jacket thing that I ordered. It's actually quite comfortable. The problem is it's now looks like a hammock on me. It looks starting to look like a poncho because I've lost so much weight since I bought it.
Gotta get some muscles, man.
Oh, that's the thing. My body does a better job at making everything else look bigger by reducing, not by actually making things larger.
Me too.
I'm like the reverse of a shower, not a grower, or whatever that term is. So, The Mummy. It is Halloween, and The Mummy, dude, this is 1999, directed by Stephen Sommers. Stephen Sommers, and he also wrote the screenplay too. The novelization is written by Max Allan Collins, who is also one of those guys done a lot of hard case crime stuff. But when was the first time you watched this movie, Scott?
I'm not sure. I guess I probably would have been in like the 5th grade when it came out. So I think I probably just saw them. I remember this when I was watching this, I was waiting them to go back to London, and then I was like, oh no, that's the second one. But it took me like till like I was like 3/4 of the way into it to realize that I was remembering the second one a lot more than I was remembering the first one. So I'm 100% sure that I've seen the first one, but when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh no, I don't remember any of this, like zero. So I don't have a good answer. I don't have any answer for you. I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but I don't remember when. Long time.
This film, weirdly, I do think that the second one's not as good as the first one, but the second one I think was watched more often by children, or at least kids were allowed to watch it more often, because that's my memory, is that, oh, I watched the second one more often. They threw a kid in. It was very much toned down from, like having any actual horror elements to it.
It had The Rock.
It had The Rock, which, I mean, dear goodness, that was his first film role.
Yeah.
And what I think is also impressive, and we're going to talk a lot about it with this movie, the CGI in it is cutting edge for the time. And sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. I think they actually did some great practicals with CGI, and those are some of the better moments.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts about this, but I'll reserve them for a little bit.
Okay. Any thoughts that you had after this rewatch? Anything that you were like, besides the, oh, I've been remembering a different movie?
I liked it. I think that my biggest takeaway has to do with the physical effects and the CGI and stuff. Which I guess we can just get into now. But I guess I wrote down that the limits of the physical. So they did a lot of physical effects, and they used some CGI, like when bugs were crawling under the skin, guys were getting eaten, sandstorms, that type of thing. So it wasn't really over the top. Nowadays, CGI is so ubiquitous that you can basically have these characters doing whatever you want. Like, you're not limited by the technology, you're not limited by the medium as much. So I think that the limitations of the physical medium helps to not take the stunts too far. Which, hey, we talked about it with Indiana Jones a little bit, but like, there's a certain campiness to this. I think that's the right word, right?
Yes.
There's a certain campiness to this and silliness. Like, especially like when Brendan Fraser's like slicing up all these three guys. He's like kicking them
beautiful,
tossing the sword, getting sword stuck. You like all of it. It's silly and fun, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. But I think that part of the problem with modern movies now is that it does try to make it too serious now. Like, I again don't know if you could I had the same thought as I did when I watched Indiana Jones, which is, I don't know if you could make this anymore.
No, that was my number one takeaway watching this, is that this is a film that works because, so like, heading into the new season, listeners, we're going to be talking about a lot of the Indiana Jones ripoffs, the things that tried to be Indiana Jones. I think this film does a brilliant job of straddling. It's taking adventure cues from like the 1930s, whatever, serials and Indiana Jones. But at the same token, it's not trying to just be a straight Indiana Jones remake or rehash.
No.
It's more interested in being its own thing. And because of that, it works. It has a very unique mixture of camp and horror. Like the actual horror elements of this film, I think, are done fairly well. Not like to the extent where it's a straight horror movie, like we tend to think of it today, but it's a scary movie that's just scary enough for the PG-13 audience that you have seen.
Yes. I think yeah, I was kind of surprised how the whole thing was I was honestly kind of surprised with the whole thing, how it was written and how it came together. Like even in the very beginning, it's just like, oh, this guy slept with this woman that he was like the Pharaoh's favorite, whatever, da 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 da. So he's gonna live forever. And I was like,
Thebes,
oh, this is
city of
yeah.
the living.
I was like, oh, I was like, oh, this is great though. Like it all makes sense. You know what I mean?
Well, and this is an example of where that intro voiceover, where we're getting a brilliant 90s CGI Matt, have we just wandered into The Prince of Egypt, which came out like a year later, 2 years later, something like that. It's my first note. So it opens as a tragedy, as this little mini story, the prologue of the film. And I love how they don't even try to explain. So the Pharaoh sees that Anoxuramun's body paint has like been smeared, which means someone besides him has touched her. She doesn't even try explaining it. They just immediately kill him. Like, I don't know. I could think of like a dozen different ways of going, oh, sorry. I had a bug on me and was trying to scrape it off and I messed up my body paint.
I know, but that's where I think that's where this movie actually. So I think that is where this movie actually shines, in that it doesn't pay attention to anything that's not
The story.
yes.
That's a good point.
Because there's specifically a couple of parts where I was just like, they didn't give any pretext for this. Like, okay, so they find this black book and they open it up. Or sorry, these four American, I know I'm jumping ahead, but these four archaeologists find this black book and they pull it out and they're like, oh, everybody's like, oh, that's stupid. And the guy's like, oh no, this is the Book of the Dead. This is the treasure. But they didn't set up anything before that with
okay.
So,
yes.
but they just introduced it, and it was like a vital to the plot, and it was everything all in like one sentence. But I think other movies would have like set it up more. You know what I mean? We need to get this book. Find the book. Let's find the fucking book.
So they have it hinted beforehand in a couple of different places where it is set up, but it's not stressed that this is the object that we're searching for, and becomes incidental, even down to the fact that they realize that the Pembroke scholars mixed up the translations on which book was stored where by the end. So I also want to point out that scene where she then stabs herself after they've killed the Pharaoh and Imhotep runs away. That is such a great shot because, again, this is technically a kid's movie. You can't show too much, but that shadow cast of her just stabbing down to kill herself is so good.
Yeah, well, what about even like they're going to cut out Imhotep's tongue and then somebody walks up to the camera? Just right?
So brilliant. And I also made the note, people have said this before, but if you're going to curse someone, maybe don't give them the curse where if they somehow by a miracle end up coming back, they have all this power.
I know, but that's why they only did it once, because it's supposed to be like that's the whole point of it though. It's like that guy's cursed to not die forever, just be fucking a skeleton in that thing getting eaten by those beetles, right?
Oh, this is a juicy one.
Yeah, I know.
So then we go from hey, Imhotep has been sealed off, all the stuff, to 1923, French Foreign Legion. When their leader runs away, all the French Foreign Legion dudes are standing there prepared to like fend off the bad guys, or really, let's face it, the indigenous peoples that they're trying to they're trying to rob. Their like captain is on a horse and he just and turns and runs away. And then Benny just looks at Brendan Fraser, whose name is Rick O'Connell, which might go down to history as one of the best adventurer names.
You like it?
Oh, I love the name Rick O'Connell.
I like O'Connell, but when he's like, when it came up and he's like, you can call me Rick or whatever, I was like, like, I was like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that guy would have been like, call me Richard, or like, I don't know.
I mean, okay, that is fair, but again, it's adventure. We have like names with consonants.
Yeah, Joe. Joe
Uh,
O'Connell.
you just got promoted, Benny, and then he also says, "Your strength gives me strength."
Yeah, as he's scared.
Such a Weasley little
Yeah,
worm.
I know, but he's a yeah, I seen that guy and I was like, fuck that guy right away. I was like, oh man, I remember this guy. I fucking hate that guy. Cause is that guy the second movie?
No, he's not in the second movie.
Okay, then I definitely 100% remember the first movie because I remember him. I was just like, like as soon as he came on, I was like, oh yeah, this fucker. I was like, I
Uh,
hate this guy.
the other comment I had is that this film is, especially that shot where it's the Foreign Legion against the
Egyptian.
Arabs,
Yeah.
Egyptians. Uh, it's Lawrence of Arabia, but with farce
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it's epic scale. Everything looks gorgeous. It's shot really well, except it's a complete subversion of, oh, this has comedic elements and these guys are doomed.
Yes. Yeah. No. It's Yeah. It's just fun. It's just like I think if you take it for what it is, um, I really like the whole thing.
I also made a note that I loved how Brendan Fraser as Rick O'Connell goes from he runs out of ammo in his rifle and then he draws his pistols and he fires until the pistols are out of ammo and then he draws two more pistols.
Yeah.
And that's how you know he's an American.
Yeah. Keep firing. Keep blasting.
Anyway, so I started blasting.
Perfect.
Then we get the sand face so that we know that there's something hidden here. And this is the Hamunaptra, right? This is the city of the dead,
Yeah.
as we are told in the prologue. And this is conveniently where they also store all their treasure.
Yeah. Well, that's why they went there though.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's there, right? He said he took those guys with him to go get the fucking gold.
His entire division, regiment, they all thought that, yes, this is real. So we went matched halfway across the desert through Libya
Yeah.
to get this treasure.
War's over. We're gonna go get this treasure.
We then cut to Rachel Weisz
Yeah.
as Evelyn Carnahan, which again, good adventure, 1920s-ish name. And she's at a library. And I think this might be where my passion for libraries began as a young boy.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm. Just classic slapstick tells us right what we're in for in this movie when she ends up knocking over the bookshelves and they go down like dominoes. I also made the note, Sons of the Pharaoh is a great curse.
Yeah, I also thought that, but it's like, um, I also thought it was really funny because he says like, Christians say like God bless, right? And I think he says Allah bless or something like that.
Yes.
And then I was like, I think you just like took like the Muslim name for God and put it on the English way of saying it. You know what I mean? Like instead of saying however they, I forget what they say. They always all the fighter guys like there's lots of Muslim fighter guys now, so they always say, I forget what it is. Um, Whatever. Allah, praise Allah, right? Praise Allah. It's not Allah blessed though. I thought it was really. I was just like, oh, there. This is made for America.
100%, especially all the English accents. Why do I put up with you? This is such a great moment. And you touched on it earlier. The exposition in this film is very well done overall. When he says, why do I put up with you? And then Evie lists off every one of her qualifications.
Yeah.
And then he responds with, no, it's because your family were the museum's largest benefactors.
Yeah. Great. You know, I think it introduces us like good. It's like it's a silly thing when she's on top of that ladder by herself. It's just a silly, fun adventure, basically.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is what this entire film is silly fun adventure, which is weird because then as we get all of those scary moments, I think that's what gives it a little, it elevates it a little bit because it isn't just, oh, look at all of this fun humor. It actually has kind of like with, I think the first Indiana Jones film especially does a good job at this, is it mixes a gothic horror element at times where we are supposed to be scared a little bit. And that's honestly one of my main criticisms of Dial of Destiny is that it doesn't really have any scary bits.
Yeah, because you don't care about anybody.
I mean, that doesn't help either. So where do the characters score for you in the Scott Hebert level of care?
Like how much am I invested in them?
Mm-hmm.
I guess pretty invested. I thought the guy that's like the that's in charge of the secret group or whatever.
Yeah,
I thought,
Omid Fair is the name of the
yes.
actor. His character's name is Ardith Bay,
Okay. He's the Magi, that's what they are.
the
But
Magi.
yeah, he's I always thought he was really cool. I always thought he was really, really cool for whatever reason. Well, I
Oh,
mean, it's sort of like
totally.
a secret thing. But
Well, in
I thought he was really cool. It's weird because I don't I like the Brendan Fraser, but like when I watch Indiana Jones, I remember wanting to be Indiana Jones. When I watch
mhm,
The Mummy, I don't want to be Brendan Fraser, but I like it. Does that
mhm.
make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because I mean, let's face it, Rick is not like he's cool. I like him, but it's kind of the thing where like I like Daniel Craig as James Bond. I wouldn't want to be Daniel Craig as James Bond. Versus I watch Pierce Brosnan or Sean Connery. I'm like, yeah, I want to be that dude.
Totally. Yeah, he's not like I don't know, it's just kind of like it's a little too wild, maybe.
Possibly because then so we get to the scene where he looks like
Oh,
he's
sorry.
just wandered
Can
off
I
the
put one
yeah.
thing about the characters? I do like how, first of all, there's a lot of characters in this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's Rick, there's the girl, there's his brother, there's the
Her
guy,
brother,
sorry, yeah, her brother. There's the guy that funded the mission. There's Benny. There's the whole other team.
the Americans,
There's Imhotep's girlfriend.
Anoxuramun.
There's the guy of the Magi. Like that's a lot of kind of not. They're all main characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're all because they all have.
They
I
all
would
have
say
moments.
yeah, they all have big moments, and I would say that like
This is a good ensemble.
yeah, Rick and Evie's relationship. That's her name, right?
Yep.
It doesn't. They don't have. I bet you if you went back and booked how long each of them had screen time, they're definitely on screen more. But it's not
Mm-hmm.
like they're not. It's not like a 75
Significant.
25 split or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, you know what I mean. They probably have like a 60-40 or maybe even less. I would if
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna guess for everybody else. But I do like how because you can like typecast them, you can make them into stereotypical versions of like they're all really shallow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, you know that storybooks thing?
Yeah.
It's like the brain, the gut, the heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? How
Yeah.
instead of finding all those qualities in one hero, you're finding them all in the group.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, where like Evie's the brains, I guess that guy's the muscle.
Yeah.
Well,
He's the adventurer. His character's purpose is to move the environment.
yes. No, but the thing I liked about it was that um you have a plethora of different characters. You basically have this whole mirror team, which
Mm-hmm.
is just the American version of them or whatever. This is like the quote unquote bad guys. But no, that's what I really liked about this is that yeah, it was an ensemble. There was a lot of them. And I like how that you can in this particular style of movie that you can have like really stereotypical people. You don't have like they can just have shallow characters and it just is what it is. I don't need a fucking backstory on how this mummy and daddy messed them up and this is their trauma and like this is how they're gonna overcome it. Like it's just like her brother's just her brother the whole time, dude. They're running
Mm-hmm.
out of there at the end and he's still looking at treasure.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? He drops the book first of all, which is great because he's goofy, right? He should, if he wanted treasure, should have kept it. And he's like, "Ah, don't worry about it." But then, like 5 seconds later, then he's still looking for treasure. Like it's great. Like he's still exactly who he was at the beginning of the movie because we didn't need him to change, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and
That's
that's
what.
the thing. Most these characters really don't need arcs. Like the closest thing you can say there is an arc is Brendan Fraser's like, oh, Evie is annoying, and then he's like, oh, but she's hot.
Yeah.
That's like his character transformation arc.
Yeah. But now he like likes her. Now
Mhm.
he thinks she's hot and he's not annoyed with her.
Isn't that the arc most men go through with
Yes.
relationships?
Yes. And then it gets progressively more annoying.
So Evie finds out that Jonathan has the map to Hamunaptra. The museum curator burns a piece of it, but that's fine. She asks, "Who'd you get it from?" Turns
Does
out
it on purpose, right?
yes, he does. We find that out like by the
Yeah, I
end.
guess so, because he's part of the team also.
He's a part of the Magi,
Yes.
and uh, we'll get there. But I love some of those scenes set up with them. So they find Rick at the prison. Brendan Fraser looks like he's wandered off the set of George of the Jungle because his hair is all wild and messy.
Yes.
And I love how Evie walks up to him. He says, "Of course I was there." And she's like, "Do you swear?" And he says, "Every damn day."
Right. Funny.
Such great lines in this movie. So that's when she basically saves him from getting executed, and that's how we also rope the warden into this whole process. And then they're about to get on the riverboat, and she thinks that he's nothing but a ruffian. He's scruffy, he's miserable, yada yada yada. Very Princess Leia Han Solo. And she's complaining to her brother, and then Brendan Fraser walks up in all of his glorious 90s Brendan Fraser energy.
Yeah. Looking fresh.
Gorgeous. I also love the little bit of business when Jonathan like slaps him on the shoulder, and then Brendan Fraser opens his jacket and checks to make sure his wallet's still there.
Yes, that's great. Just double check. Can't be
Just
too trustworthy.
can't be too careful. He recognizes, he's like, no, 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 don't worry. I don't steal from business partners. He's like, I'm not certain I believe that.
That's good. That's good senses. No, they're yeah, it's fun. I like it.
We get on the riverboat. How do you feel about the riverboat sequence? Because I honestly think the riverboat is one of my favorite like set piece tropes. I don't think that there's been a riverboat scene in a movie that I'm aware of that I have not enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean it's a good high stakes thing because you're trapped on there, right? So it's a little microcosm of like what's gonna happen. As soon as he grabbed Benny on the I was like fuck man, I would have just tossed him over the edge. Like that's what I was thinking. I was like, he should have just fucking tossed him over the edge. And then he tosses him over at the end, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, bro. I was like, that's good. I was like, yeah, fuck that guy. Um
I
but
love how
then I
he's
was
like,
like,
are you just you're getting the money, leading them into the desert and abandoning them? He's like, no, unfortunately, they're too smart for that. They won't pay me until we get there.
yeah, until we get back. Half now, half later. That's so funny. Yeah, no, it's no, I like the boat scene. It's good. It sets everything up. It's got tension. The pacing of this movie is good, but like I think that what they were doing without having to because it's like a little bit of a mystery too, this
Mhm.
whole thing, right? We don't know where like we know there's a mummy. And I
Mhm.
guess that's why that the beginning scene works so well, because we know the stakes, but they don't
Mhm.
know what they're stumbling into.
There's
Like if
tension.
correct. Yes, because of that opening scene. But if we didn't have that there, then there would have to be a lot more. It would be a lot more character driven.
Mhm.
This is such a plot driven movie.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it because the reality is there is another way of so when I'm working on a writing project, I'm always curious like where is the best place to start? Because wherever you start, then that's what the projection is for the expectations. You set those expectations right there at the beginning, and then you have to subsequently pay off. And in this film, so often that prologue is usually a terrible idea. In this case, it sets up the stakes for us right away so that we know what they're headed towards and the danger of what they're heading towards when they don't. It's that thing where in a film, you know the ticking box, but the characters don't. And so it fills you with dread.
Yes, even though they're in their own little world, they're just going on
Mm-hmm.
an adventure hunt, right?
We also get to see that he has his duffel full of weapons, which I still think is so cool, so badass.
Pretty cool.
Evie's like reading her book. He drops his bag on the table and it unravels with all this guns and ammo. And she's like, I didn't think that it was going to be that kind of adventure. And he's like, I like to be prepared.
Yeah. Like I heard him. I heard this crazy voice. Okay, I heard this crazy voice. I know what we're hitting into, lady. All right, all right. Listen to me.
I also made the note that we get Rachel Weisz in a nightgown. So that's again one of T's favorite movie tropes.
Wet nightgown.
A white nightgown.
Wet. It gets wet.
Oh, and then it gets wet too, which is like that just icing on the cake. So the Magi dudes show up and try to steal the map to keep them from getting there. And Brendan Fraser stops them from attacking Evie, but inadvertently they set fire to the boat, as one does.
Yeah. Everything's burning.
Everything's burning. And there's a wonderful little piece of business here where Evie is following Rick. Rick hands her his weapons duffel as he's reloading, and like his head is against a wall, and you see like the bullets going through the wall, and then all of a sudden she like yanks him to the side before the spot where his head was explodes with rifle fire.
Yep. And he's like, hey.
And you see it's one of those badass moments because it's like, see, gunfire, he's not even flinching. He's like, this is just another day on the job.
Yeah. You know what else I was thinking was really funny though? Because he's trying to get them off the boat, and he like pushed her in the water or whatever, and gives her the duffel bag, right? And then somebody like intercepts him, so he's like had to fight this other guy for a minute or two. But I was just thinking, like, bro, he just fucking tossed her in the river, but he gave her a heavy bag of weapons. Like, you know what I mean? She's gonna sink with that. If she tries to grab that thing, she's just like, why would you toss that? Like, what are you thinking? You know how much like that duffel bag would weigh? It'd be so heavy, dude. That's not a good thing to like jump off a ship to try to take to shore.
All I can think is that duffel bag like oil treated? Like, how is it not ruining all the weapons and ammo inside the moment they go overboard?
Yeah, I would. Well, I thought of that too because I was like, oh, it's gonna be salt water, and then I was like, no, it's regular water. But then you could probably use them maybe a little bit, but yeah, I didn't even think about the ammo.
And then the warden dude stands there. He's like, what should we do? He's like, I'll go get help. You stay here.
Yeah, he just stands
And he
there.
jumps over. And then the guy just standing there for like 2 minutes. He goes, ah, and then jumps over. And then Benny's like, we got all the horses.
Yeah, he's such a douchebag. He's great.
Perfect. Like on the scale of Weasel, he's right there. Duke of
But
Wesselton has nothing on him.
he's got that stupid mustache. He's like everything about him is
Punchable.
That's a good way to put it. No, he's a good character though.
Brilliant character actor.
He is who he needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is like, well, I mean, you just need that though, you know?
Yeah. Well, again, you need something that has conflict. You need to have characters like that preventing the heroes from doing what they're supposed to or making things worse.
Yes.
And so they have a bet with the Americans who's going to get there first. I think that they went, oh, we also get to see, this is when they get the camels, and that's when Rick's like, oh, hey, Evie's hot. After he just makes a comment about they could have sold his Jonathan's sister to pay for everything. It would have been cheaper otherwise. And then he goes, oh, hello there.
She beats him to the place.
And she beats him to the place. The Americans and them both have their own little camps. They're digging around for stuff. And this is where the warden, we like start getting our first big scares when the warden's like stealing the scarab things.
Mm-hmm.
And then they become real. And then they crawl under his skin and become CGI.
Yes.
It always makes my skin crawl every time I see that. I know it's CGI, but ooh, just
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think there's a certain charm to the CGI.
I agree. I think that my main takeaway after going through all this was the CGI in this film is that level of, yeah, it works because it's not so fake that it's painful like in movies actually like only a couple years later. I'd say a lot of early 2000s movies, they tried using CGI more and it's worse. Whereas this, it's that right level of, again, the camp factor works.
Yes.
But it's also aged okay with the film.
Totally. And in the Mummy Returns, there's a scene with The Rock where they made him CGI into the Scorpion King, and it's like widely regarded as the worst CGI.
Agreed.
Which
And
is kind of
that
funny. But yeah, no, it works. I think this movie does work though.
this movie, it works. They
They tried to make him too much. Like they should have made him like a whatever. We don't need to get into Mummy Returns, but
we'll talk the Mummy Returns eventually, Scott.
oh,
Scott's looking forward to the third
what's
one.
that side up?
Dragon. Scott's looking forward to the third one, the Dragon Tomb, where we don't even have Rachel Weisz to make it better.
Oh, is that they go to Asia?
Yes.
They
They actually, yes, it's actually kind of fun. I think that
Never
it's
seen it.
underrated. So
Okay.
you'll enjoy when we watch it.
Okay.
So Evie finds Imhotep's tomb while the Americans have found underneath the statue of Anubis the thing that has not the sarcophagus, but like Anaxaromun's organs and the book. This is the book of life. No,
Yeah.
they find the book of the dead. The book of
Yeah.
life is the golden one. So they find the book of the dead and the Anaxaromun's preserved organs. We also get that the whatever his name is, dude, Warden is dead. He like gets knocked out and they're like, what killed him? I love this when Jonathan, Evie's brother, is searching through his bags. He finds Glenlivet 12-year, which for everyone listening is one of my favorite scotches. And it actually is that old, where it was around in the 1920s. So here is to good liquor.
That's funny. Well, yeah, but it creates a bit of tension there too, because you think he's got fucking bit by the beetle in the purse or in the bag. I mean,
yeah. Again, good writing. Like set up expectation, subvert, then have other scary stuff happens, which in this case is the Magi attack the camp. We have a brilliant piece of action that goes on where everyone's fighting, and then Brendan Fraser brings everything to a standstill by lighting a stick of dynamite and holding it up to Ardith Bay. And Ardith Bay is like, enough. You will have 24 hours. Be gone by tomorrow.
yeah, he's I don't know, it's fun. I like those guys a lot. I don't know why the secret, like I just think they're neat.
I think it's because you want your beard to look like his.
I do think he's handsome. I kind of like the darkness, like the dark outfit. I think is neat. But I think the whole Magi are cool, like all of them, like the secret cult or whatever it is, basically.
The Pharaoh's bodyguards, the
Yeah, but
descendants.
they're like, yeah, they're protectors. You know what I mean? I think it's neat. I think it's like a cool. I always thought it was like cool.
It is. Also, fun fact: the actor who plays Ardith Bay, Oded Fair, he voices Dr. Fate in the Justice League TV show.
He's also in Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo.
That's right, he is.
I know. I was like, this guy's so funny. This guy's like an early '90s actor.
A brilliant early 90s actor. And so after Ardith Bay tells him to leave, Evie gets very drunk, and it's adorable and it's cute. And it might just be because hot chicks look cute doing anything.
No, it's a cute moment for sure. It's a good. She's just like, she's too drunk because she's just a girl, can't handle her liquor, smaller body mass index, can't absorb it. But then so Brendan Fraser's just like chilling. He's just like, she's like, I'm gonna kiss you. He's like,
he's like, if you insist, and then she falls asleep. And it's just so sweet. Then she has that wonderful line. She's like, I am a librarian.
yeah, it's it's cute. What are you? He's like, I don't know about you. I'm like, what's there not to know? He's like, I get this. I get your brother. He's like, I don't get you. I was like, why? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, what? I don't understand.
Yeah.
What's there not to get?
She is just as much an archetype as the rest of you in this movie.
That was the only one of the only lines where I was like, huh? I was like, what's there not to get about her? She's a girl, she's there. And she's her parents grew up there though. You know what I mean? It's not like, how did you get here? It's like, that's how. Like, how do you?
She says her mother was Egyptian too.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good So what it does is it's actually that moment they try to give the characters real pathos. Pathos tries to get them pathos, and you're like, movie, know your place.
I
We
don't
don't
need it.
need art. We know that there's a mummy under here you're about to unleash, and we want to see it eat people.
We want to see the mummy. Um, no, but there was one thing where she was talking and she's like, "Oh, my dad fell in love with Egypt so much that he like married an Egyptian woman." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure if he was there, he would have like it doesn't matter what country he was in, lady. Your father would have liked women there too. All right, or whatever."
I mean, by comparison, let's remember the Naked Jungle, where in that film Charlton Heston is very determined not to fall in love with the local people. So,
That's so funny.
uh, just hilarious moment. And this was the other thing that I noted. So the Americans open up the thing, they get the Book of the Dead, and he starts reading the inscription. This is the brilliant thing about the way the movie is set up. You get so much exposition from people reading literally the things you find.
Yeah, or yes, they
Telling
don't.
you what it is, telling
Well,
you what the consequences are.
I know the nice thing about the exposition in this movie, which I think makes it work, is it's not exposition before the thing happens. It's the exposition while the thing is happening. So, like when they pull out that Book of the Dead, he's like, "No, this." He literally says, "This is
Is
the
the
treasure.
treasure.
This is the treasure. This is it, guys. Um, this is what we need." And like, I didn't need the fucking setup for the whole book before that because I already know what I already knew from the prologue
Mm-hmm.
that there's this fucking mummy. There's a guy that's buried in there, right? And then obviously, the Book of the Dead is important, but like, the characters don't need to know that. But then the fact that he does know that, like, they weren't going there, they weren't seeking that. Basically, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It was incidental to what they're actually looking for.
But it's the important part of the movie. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
MacGuffin.
Yeah, it's a MacGuffin. Both books are MacGuffins, which actually is a fun thing because again, it structurally works. So Evie finds the book and realizes that the key thing that had the map in it can be used
Yeah.
to open it. But first, well, again, the whole using film well is that you can have two things happening and cross-cutting, and it's not as off-putting, whereas going from page to page
Yeah.
of different sequences are. And in this case, as the Americans are getting the book, Evie and Rick and Jonathan uncover Imhotep's sarcophagus.
Yeah. The mummy.
And they open it because they have the key. Well, they open it, and at that point, it's the mummy. It is a in a rictus of pain, juicy, it's a juicy one. And she makes a comment about, oh, this curse that was put on him. Look, you can see like his fingers, he's scratched in like the sarcophagus shell. Death is not the end, or something like that, or death is the beginning. And this is good because as that's happening, the Americans find the Book of the Dead, and the Book of the Dead says, don't read this part because it will unleash this monster.
Yeah.
And what happens? Evie steals the book, and Rick even goes, that's called stealing, when she takes it from the hands of the American while the American's sleeping. She's like, no, it's research. And I'm like, that's right. You are definitely colonial British because it's not stealing, it's research.
That's so funny.
And then she reads the words you're not supposed to read. And that's when the mummy awakens.
Yeah, it's great. And then it starts, and then it's like it's not a different movie, but it's,
well, it changes because all of a sudden the Americans, who until now have just been kind of cookie cutter, look, we've got this opposite team, they're Americans, they become monster food because
also, sorry, but also there was hints of the supernatural before.
Mm-hmm.
You heard the voice. There's whispers of it. The Magi are not supernatural, but they're elusive, right? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's just like we're just gonna get blasted for the rest of the movie with different world. You know what I mean?
Well, and on top of it, so one of the cursed things is that if Imhotep comes back, he will have the power of the 10 plagues of Egypt. Which, I mean, technically that's like a Judeo-Christian thing. So funny that an Egyptian would have,
and it would have
that,
been like,
but...
and they also said like, because it's whatever, he's like 3,000 years ago, and then like the Bible one's like 2,000 years ago, so it's like 1,000 years. Like it's not even fucking close, dude. It's I also thought of that. I was like, that's interesting. Like that's what I
Scott's
was saying.
like, I remember the flannel graph.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying about the Allah bless. Like Allah bless. I'm like, oh, this is like an American's version of uh yes, made for American audience, I guess is
But
the generous way to put it.
I will defend that because I think that even if it's intentional, even if it's unintentional, it works so beautifully because
Oh, I
this
agree.
is an echo of those 1930s stuff where they don't care about other cultures or getting the facts straight. It's whatever sounds good. I mean, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, a film that came out in the 80s, was like, you know, it'd be really cool if he turned into a zombie, like in the classic voodoo zombie thing. And someone in the room probably went, but sir, that's like an African New Orleans thing, not something that happens in India. I'm sorry, what did you say? I just had a brilliant plot idea, and you are doing what to it? You're writing it? Oh, good job.
That's funny.
I'm pretty so yeah, I mean it works for the world that this
Yeah,
inhabits.
I wasn't critiquing. I don't wasn't critiquing it. I was just
No,
saying,
but you're right. It is
just pointing out.
hilarious because
Yeah.
you just know right there. We're just story, do the story.
Well, it is, but like you also it. What's the what's the Maya rule?
Oh, most advanced yet acceptable.
Right. So it's bringing in that this mummy has plagues, but it's something that's already relatable to the viewer
Mm-hmm.
because they know what it is. So it's like I can tell you that there's 10 plagues, and if you have any context, well, first of all, if you don't have any context for the Bible, it's not going to matter. Secondly, though, if you do, then you know that like these locusts are coming. There's going to be famine. There's, you know what I mean. The water's going to turn red.
Mm-hmm. Which I have a comment on that when we get there.
Because it's alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Because all I was thinking is, okay, Jesus turned water into wine. So doesn't that mean like it's a different thing
Well,
than
no,
turning out water into blood? Alcohol would still be alcohol.
yeah, I just was like, okay.
But it's a good visual. It is
I know,
such
but
a
it is funny how they were
yeah.
all drinking the. I know, I did the same thing. I was like, well, they're drinking out booze. He's like, oh, the water's getting turned into blood. Like, oh, that's why our alcohol turned into blood. I'm like, no, that's two different things, dude. But
That's that's a different problem if alcohol turns into blood. So the mummy is now unleashed. Part of the curse for the Americans is if they opened up the box thing, the mummy was going to go after them. It basically imprinted them with they're the ones that the mummy can feast on to gain his strength back.
yeah, they're the sacrifice.
So it becomes really a good like horror element where that poor dude that has the glasses, which
Yeah.
also comment on that. If I was the mummy stealing someone's eyes,
I also thought about that too. Yeah, pick someone with the good eyes, right?
I would have loved it would have been I know it would have been going over the top, but it would have been such great comedy to have the mummy then have to like get glasses.
That can be a sequel. The mummy goes to the optometrist. Ah!
That's a Funny or Die sketch. So he takes the dude's eyes and tongue, and Evie like runs into him, and it's really pretty terrifying as the mummy is slowly approaching her. And Rick all of a sudden like comes to save her, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And then he turns, he's like, "Ah!" When he sees the mummy standing there, it's like decrepit corpse.
Yeah.
Again, good CGI for what it is. I think
Yeah.
it's a mixture of practical effects and actual CGI, so
Yes.
it really does work well. And then Rick's like, we're getting out of here now. And so they get to civilization. I love Benny's interaction with the mummy.
With all the
Yeah, Benny sees the mummy and the mummy's like coming for him. And Benny's like, he pulls out this thing, he pulls out a crucifix and he's like, just reading like the rosary, something like that, and it doesn't do anything. So he grabs another religious icon and another religious icon and another religious icon, muttering whatever the religious incantation is in the language that it comes from, including Hindu, I think.
Yeah, Buddhism. Yeah.
Yeah, and he finally gets to the Star of David and starts muttering in Hebrew, and the mummy is like, the slave language. And he decides that Benny can be his, basically the Renfield to his Dracula.
Yes.
And he hands out gold. And again, I think that's a practical effect hand that like has the
Yeah.
gold in it.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah, Benny's such a coward. He's such a well-written coward. Like he's such a coward, he doesn't even believe in his own God. He wants to be covered by all of them. You know? Just everything about him is cowardly. Like, I was just as I was thinking about that, just bringing all that stuff up. He's good, he's great, but I hate him. But
deliciously so.
Yeah, yeah, he's a douchebag.
And then
yeah,
this doesn't take time to let you catch your breath. It's instantly like Rick says to Evie, we need to get out of here. They're now in one of the cities in Egypt. I don't know if
it does big jumps with like
time,
silly
place.
Yeah, but with silly transition effects between.
I noticed that too, which I think works. Again, this film,
of course it does, because it's like opening to a new scene. It's opening to like a new scene or whatever. But that's another like campy, episodic type.
Very serial.
Yes, now we're in another chapter, right? Last week on
The Mummy.
The Mummy is back again. We can't say it returns because that's the sequel.
Rick O'Connell and Evie are about to decide what they're going to do next. We should leave. No, we're not. Tensions are high. It's such a great little piece of business where he keeps putting everything in the trunk. She keeps taking it out of the trunk as he's putting it into the trunk. She's like, no, we need to save the world. And he goes, no, we need to save ourselves.
Yeah, and she slams his fingers in there.
Yes. It works so well.
Yeah, and you kind of get the feeling that there's some tension there, you know?
That two hot people in the same room. It's like, yes.
What's gonna happen?
Peak 90s. You're like, could they end up being together? Yes, they will.
Maybe in about 5 minutes.
Give them enough time alone. It's like it's gonna make a joke about like pets when you have your just get two animals in the same room together, just give them enough time, eventually something happens. Not going to continue the joke, but yes, so Evie doesn't want to leave. The Americans are scared crapless because they don't know what's going to happen next. They know they're the ones that the mummy is going to go after. And they're like, we're just going to leave. The dude, Mr. Burns, who's the only American whose name I remember, is the one who lost his tongue and his eyes. And I love the audacity of how Benny literally just introduces him to Prince Imhotep. And know what? I love how complete nonchalance Burns is like, Imhotep, that doesn't ring any bells. He's so traumatized from having his eyes and tongue removed that I don't know why like he's actually talking to this random stranger that shows up. But he does.
I think that he knows that it's them, but he doesn't have any other options.
You think he knows that's the mummy who's about to drain him of his life force?
Well, I don't know. Now that you're saying that,
because he's really stupid if he is.
Well, I know, but I don't know. I kind of thought that maybe he was there because like I don't know, maybe they made him a promise to like get it back or something. But I guess that makes more sense that he doesn't know and that he's just friends with Benny.
He's like just trying to be a nice dude, and they're like, yeah, that doesn't work here. And he drains him. Sad. And Imhotep slowly, like, you can see he's being more restored the more that he drains the Americans. We also get to like meet Winston briefly in the bar.
Yeah.
He says he wants to die. He was in the RAF. He's an American. He's a English actor, character actor. Do they give us his name? He isn't in the main cast, so that would take too much time to actually find it. Oh, it is Bernard Fox, who is a brilliant English actor who very much, if you remember seeing him in this movie, you go, oh, that's right. I've seen him in a dozen other things.
British guy.
And yeah, just British dude. That's literally his role. He wishes he could die in the war, but he survived. Poor him. All of his friends dead. The mummy tries to get Evie, and Rick scares them away with a cat. The mummy goes away. We meet the Magi, who's like, why? Why did you morons do this? And explains the consequences. And this is after they have also already tried defeating the mummy, and the mummy just blew past them.
Yep.
Oh, I make the note that Rick shotguns him.
What do you mean? Oh, he hits him with a
He-
shotgun.
yeah. But that happened earlier. I'm looking at my notes. I'll be honest, my notes literally vanished once we got past to this point because I was just so much in for the ride
Yeah,
of this film.
I gotcha. Yeah, and there's a lot, like the pace picks up because there's just like, also there's just more and more stuff. The priests come out. Also, there's mummies everywhere.
There were a couple of things that I noted that I really liked here, which are that so we build as the tension rises with each American that he kills, he gets stronger, more of the plagues start happening around them. And we get Jonathan like repeating the lines from the Bible with each plague to what it is, which is kind of a cute touch. And then the best part might be, so then they get to the Natural History Museum. I should note though, second to last American, blonde American dude, when he's standing there like with his gun ready for what's about to happen,
Yes.
he tells his buddy, get me a bourbon with a bourbon chaser
And something else bourbon.
and something else bourbon. He's like, do you want some bourbon? Yeah, I want some bourbon. And you're like, that's the most like you could, it's a cute touch where you go, oh, these guys do know each other and are giving each other shit.
Yeah. No, it's good. And it's silly. Like the whole thing. It doesn't, it never jumps over to like taking itself too seriously.
No. And we get Imhotep tries getting Evie again. Now she's in a black nightgown. In case the audience was wondering.
Yeah. She switched to the black at the market or whatever, right? Or
No, but by now she's actually in bed wearing a nightgown.
Oh,
It's
gotcha.
black. And I assume just for the sake of more action figures.
Yeah. Probably, maybe.
This
They gave her a lot
was
of
the
costume,
90s.
They gave her a lot of costume changes.
They did. I mean, that was probably part of the pitch for Rachel Weisz coming on the film. I think this is actually only her second or third movie. This was very much like her breakout role. And I should comment, because if I don't say this, Bond fans are going to get annoyed. Rachel Weisz is the current wife of Daniel Craig.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah. So once they save Evie, they go to the museum where she was working. And that's when we find out that Cairo dude is a part of the Magi. And that he was like, I can't believe what you did. And then Evie makes a comment about him and Ardeth Bay are standing there next to each other. And she's like, how many people had to die to preserve this? Innocent lives taken. And he goes, to save the world? Yes, it was worth it.
Yeah.
And then that's when all the boils come out, and Imhotep has hypnotized all these people. And it's such a great thing because this is where we get our disposable CGI army.
Yes.
Basically, but it's actual people, which I do appreciate. Is in a different time, those would not have, in today's day and age, that would have been just duplicates of the same people, not an actual like gigantic cast.
Yeah, and it's when he starts hitting them with the cars and stuff, it's just like, okay.
They're driving away in this red little old school car thing, and I've actually seen that car. It's at the Universal Studios in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
The disappointing part is there are not more mummy things around there. Like, I'm like, come on, dudes, this was a major movie for you. You have one ride that came out when The Mummy Returns came out, and this car. No other like memorabilia.
Crap.
Just
Dropping the ball.
I was instantly disappointed. I hate Universal by comparison to Warner Brothers. If you're going to LA and you want a studio tour, do the Warner Brothers one. So the army basically. Oh, I forgot that the Cairo dude's name is Terrence.
Oh, really?
So good for him. Spelled differently though. Imhotep basically says, I will spare your friends if you come with me, Evelyn. And she does, but of course he's not going to spare her friends. This is just buying time. And they escape through the sewer system, but Cairo dude, Terrence, sacrifices himself by trying to fend them off long enough for them to escape. This is officially like my final note that I actually made on the movie, besides just going, this is fun. Once they escape, they go to meet RAF dude, Winston. They're driving the same color yellow car that they crashed and left in the plaza.
There's not a great variety of cars.
So I'm like, did they go back and get the car? I assume that like Rick O'Connell has like a fleet of these red, yellow model whatevers. And then they go to get Winston, and Winston asks, so please explain to me, what exactly is this mission about? He goes, save the girl, save the world.
Save the damsel.
Save the damsel.
Yeah, kill the bad guy.
Save the damsel, kill the bad guy, save the world. Which they must have used that in the trailer.
Yeah, possibly, but that's just like, it's good. This is what we're doing, buddy. We need a ride. Let's go.
And he's like, will there be danger involved? He's like, yeah, you might die. And he's like, splendid.
Hooray. Yeah, he's stoked.
He is thrilled. I also love that it's this picture of this English dude who is just there because he's like sitting there. He has his phonograph going. He's drinking tea. And it like the sign says official RAF headquarters of Cairo, Egypt, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's one plane.
War's over.
The war's over. And the new one has just begun, because then they fly out to get to Hamunaptra. And I love that they strap Jonathan and Oded Fair
on the wings.
Because there's only 2 seats.
They're just hanging on. They're just literally hanging on.
And then Benny and Rachel Weisz, their apparently transportation system for this powerful wizard high priest is literally, bless you,
the wind.
Allah bless you, Scott.
Yeah, there you go.
Is just to wind and blow their way over there, and then they drop down the sand. Imhotep sees the plane, and that's when he raises the giant wall of sand that then chases after them and has become iconic ever since, as the giant face like tries swallowing them up. And Evie thinks very quickly and then kisses the mummy to make the sand go away.
Works.
It works. I mean, to be fair, but they crashed, and everyone's fine except Winston. Winston is dead.
Just gets sucked to the sand. That's it.
They leave him for his corpse to be eaten by the jackals.
And it's like sinking real slow, and they just watch it. The whole thing. Like the whole thing is just on there. So everybody's just watching. They're just like, oh, sad. Look at him go. Oh, he wanted to die. That's good. There he goes.
Thank goodness we set up that he was going to die earlier rather than they wanted to die. Otherwise, this is really tragic.
Literally no character arc to him. Just he wants to die. They need a ride. Here's your chance, buddy. This is it. We need a plane ride, and you get to die.
It's a win-win.
It is. That's how they set it up. Everybody's there.
I love this movie. By comparison, I recently watched Sky Pirates, and there's literally a transition of they had like 4 characters when the plane goes down, and then they're on like a life raft thing after the plane goes down, and now there are only 3 of them. And it's a voiceover going, such and such died. And literally no other explanation. And there's a part of me that just wants to go, did they eat him? His corpse
Maybe.
isn't there.
They were hungry.
How long have they been in the lifeboat? So the plane crashes, kills Havelock. Rick, Jonathan, and Ardeth locate the book of Amun-Ra in Hamunaptra. And it's a good moment of tension because this is at the point where when they were at the museum, they figured out, hey, if the black book brings Mummy Dude to life, maybe the gold book will kill him.
Yes.
So then it becomes, we need to get the golden book. It's below the statue of Horus, which is a good like light dark thing because Horus versus Anubis. They find it. Ardeth Bay fends off the mummies as they're attacking because now Imhotep has resurrected his priests, which are these like gangling creatures that really look like zombie mummies. And
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And again, good effects. Like genuinely, I think the effects.
Well,
for
they're all
those guys
mummies.
are
They're all
pretty
mummies
nice.
because they were mummified alive. That was
Yeah.
part of the legend at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And then Evelyn is. This is so classic, like weird tales, pulp novels from the 20s and 30s, where Evie is stretched out, like chained to a giant slab of rock, prepared to be sacrificed so that Imhotep can bring back Anaxaramun, which I also like because, hey, the man has a goal and thousands of years of being trapped has not changed that. That very setup in the beginning, he wants to bring her back to life. He's still committed to the bit.
Yeah, he's committed to it.
He has not moved on.
No.
And then the dudes show up. The problem is Jonathan can read the book of life thing, the book of Amun-Ra, but he doesn't read Egyptian very well. So it's a bit of comedy where he accidentally brings out these what I'll call mega mummies. These are the commando mummies. These are the dudes who look like the pharaoh's bodyguard, who like jump, leap, very CGI. And the problem is Jonathan has to read the entire page to be able to control them. Whereas Imhotep can just go snap his fingers and go, kill the dude. And so they attack Brendan Fraser. And this is where we get awesome Brendan Fraser looks cool fighting mummies.
Yes. It's a fun scene for sure.
And then he saves Evie, but then Evie's attacked by the mummy of Anaxaramun that Imhotep has kind of resurrected a little bit, but not actually gotten her soul there yet, where she's like regenerated. Instead, she's just still a wandering mummy.
Oh, no. I think she is her soul is in there. She's got no flesh. She's just like Imhotep at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She just needs to be regenerated by Evie getting killed.
Yeah.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
Right?
You're right. That's how it is. So then big fight. Jonathan eventually reads the thing, is able to get the mummy guards to stop, and then Brendan Fraser and the mummy dude actually start fighting. Well, guess what? Imhotep is practically a god, so it's not going very well. Evie has to read the book to send him back. She does. The soul is like stripped out of Imhotep in what looks I love this effect because it looks so much like a 1920s thing. It literally looks like just dude dressed in, it looks like they did a back projection of a dude in blue driving a chariot, and he like yanks out something from Imhotep, and Imhotep watches it runs away as it runs away, and then he goes to fight Rick again, only to find out he's mortal now.
Yeah.
So he dies.
He dies.
During this time, Benny has been stealing from the treasure chamber, and Jonathan has already tried to steal from the treasure chamber twice, and Rick has told him no on both occasions. We also set up something earlier in the story where if you trigger the wrong thing, the entirety of Hamunaptra will descend beneath the sands.
Oh, I missed the setup for that.
Yeah, it was a comment in the that Evie just said, like in the beginning exposition, as
Huh.
they were talking about where Hamunaptra is, what it is. And so that accidentally gets triggered and the whole thing starts getting buried. If Benny had stuck with one bag of stolen gold, he would have been fine, but he has loaded all the camels and he gets stuck carrying another bag on his way out.
Yeah,
Goodbye, Benny.
but it's very satisfying.
Very
Pain.
satisfying.
Yeah, he knows he's gonna die. And
Well,
it's gonna
doesn't he
hurt.
get the bugs? The bugs attack him.
So
Yeah.
he gets trapped in this throne room thing, the
Mm-hmm.
preparation room, whatever it's called, the ceremonial room, and then he sees one bug and he's got a torch, and then he kills that bug, but then he hears the scuttling and they all come out, and then the torch is going out, and then you know that he's just gonna get fucked up, and like he's gonna get hurt, right? And it's like that's what you get for being annoying. Because Rachel Weisz told him that you always get your comeuppance or pretty much whatever, right? Like if there's
Mm-hmm.
like it's not she wasn't telling him that it was a story, but she was telling him basically it's a story and you're a douchebag, so you're gonna die a painful death. Huh.
I mean, at least Iago and Aladdin's more fun than this dude.
Oh, Iago's way more of like a in-betweener.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's just straight douche.
Absolutely terrible. So Benny is no more. The rest of the gang escapes by the skin of their teeth, basically. And when they're there, look, they didn't even have to steal gold. Someone else stole it for them. Ardith Bay is like, you guys are cool. Rides off into the sunset. Jonathan's like, well, so we're all gonna party, aren't we? And then he goes, oh, you guys are smooching.
Oh, gross. Classic. Little boy.
And then that's the end. Uh, they run away on their camels with the treasure.
Yeah, it was great. I liked it.
This is a fun movie. I enjoy so much about this. The writing is really good. There's like a collider list of movies that have tried to do The Mummy again, including, but not limited to, The Mummy that starred Tom Cruise. That I tried watching it. It's just not good. The one that was supposed to launch the dark universe. It's not good. It's not even entertaining. It's really boring. And that's the worst thing a movie can really do.
Yes, I've never seen it. When did it come out?
It came out in
2017?
yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, this is the thing I didn't check until now. Eric Avari is Dr. Terrence Bay,
Nice.
who it's spelled Bey rather than Ardith Bay is Bay. So I don't know if they were supposed to be related and we're like, oh, we'll just change a letter so they're not, but
I don't know. That's a little confusing.
it's a weird thing. This film is, again, it's just people have been trying to remake it multiple times. I think Steven Summers also did you ever see Van Helsing?
Yeah,
They tried to recapture this kind of magic for Van Helsing and it just doesn't work.
it's interesting. I think this movie has like a certain charm to it.
Mm-hmm. It fits right within the level that it's trying to be. I think that this film is elevated because of the cast, for one. Regardless, it's kind of like the same thing with Indiana Jones we've talked about. He's really a blank slate. It's Harrison Ford's character acting in the role, his charisma, that makes it as entertaining as it is. Like the
Yes.
dialogue and everything would still be great. It's just most of the charm comes from the actor.
Yeah,
I
for
think the
sure.
same thing could be said for this movie. Without Brendan Fraser, I don't think the movie is as much fun because he's basically like a big kid. And that might be part of the reason why we don't necessarily want to be him because he's
Yeah.
already a lot like us.
Yeah, that's probably true. That is a good way to put it. He is a big kid.
And Rachel Weisz is just absolutely charming on screen. Everyone, this film is well cast, it's well written, and it came out at literally the perfect time.
Yeah, I think a big part of it, like I said, was the part that like with the limitations of doing physical effects. I think it limited it. I think it came out at the right time. I think that you could have a lot of problems with it if you tried take it as more serious than it takes
Mm-hmm.
itself. But overall, I think that no, it really works, man. It's like it's not a great piece of drama, but it's a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Start to finish, it's fun.
And
Buckle
that's
up.
why this is my number one Halloween movie. Like, I've tried watching slasher movies, it's just not my thing. I'm more interested in the stories of them than the films themselves. And this movie is the right mixture of pulp adventure serial with like scary bits, but like in the way that when you're 13, scary movies are scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I would I think of this way more as an adventure movie than as a scary movie. But yeah, no, definitely got the horror elements in there. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. Scott, tell the audience what you've been up to.
I just paint every day now on live stream, and I make paintings, and I'm boring, and that's what I do every day. So I'm on YouTube. That's it, man. Yeah, I've been painting.
And we'll link to your YouTube channel in the show notes. Scott's streams are fun. He's been working on some really great art. And you've got your, what I call your Halloween painting in the background, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an orange girl's face. But
Right.
yeah,
I mean, hey, let's be realistic. What's scarier than gingers?
facts. Facts.
Scott, thanks again for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, buddy.